We, the members of the Muscogee County Sheriff's Office, are dedicated to safeguarding the lives and property of our community through fair and impartial treatment of all citizens. We strive to protect the community and to operate the Muscogee County Jail within the boundaries of the state and U.S. constitutions while providing a safe, humane, and secure environment for both the staff and inmates. We are committed to effectively serving the judiciary needs of all the courts within our jurisdiction. We seek to strengthen our partnerships with all facets of our community and will fulfill our duties by adapting to the changing needs of our citizens and by adhering to the highest standards of integrity, ethics, and professionalism when performing our duties as employees of the Muscogee County Sheriff's Office.
Is that the administrative division is responsible for the 441 positions within the Sheriff's Office, and that is all the correctional officers, deputies, part-times, reserves. Each of those positions, the Human Resources section deals with their pay, their benefits, their compensation. We processed 147 job applications last year, and during that time we hired 68 people in different ranks, grades, divisions, from civilians to deputy sheriffs. And then we also out-processed 48 people, so it's a very busy area too. Along with that, every personnel action, whether it's a promotion or a demotion or a disciplinary action that requires a personnel action, we're responsible for. Administration also takes in a lot of different areas. We have pretrial services under us. We have a program where deputies monitor people coming out. We have 71 as of today people in that, so we have deputies that are assigned to that. In the administration, it takes under training, our training division, which does an excellent job. They spent over 10,000 hours last year in doing training. As you know, by state law, we're required to do certain training for our officers.
The Muscogee County Sheriff's Office Training Section is responsible for meeting all of the post-peace officer standards and training standards for deputy sheriffs throughout the state of Georgia and for those who work in county jails in Georgia. All of those that work in the Muscogee County Jail are required to go to basic jail training, and then they're required to get at least 40 hours of basic training every year, along with certain certifications, special certifications. If they're an intox operator, if they're an ID tech or responsible for fingerprinting the 14,000 individuals that come into the jail on an annual basis. And the deputies were responsible for all of their defensive tactics training, all of the tools that they carry on their belt, whether it's handcuffs, asbatons, OC pepper spray, or the firearm. We're responsible for ensuring that all of them have met the minimum standard for all of the post requirements, all of the requirements established by the state of Georgia, and all the requirements established by the United States when it comes to law enforcement training. And we do most of this out of with a very small group of instructors, but we have training exercises going on a daily basis. We currently do all of our firearms training on a range that was a range that at one time was used by Department of Corrections. It had fallen into disrepair, so we partnered up and went in through an agreement with the Georgia Department of Corrections. We rehabilitated the range, and over a period of 3 years, we probably invested approximately $150,000 into that property, with the largest expenditure being a targeting system. But for the most part, we rehabilitated what was already there, and what we have done by doing that is we fixed a very bad training situation where we were attempting to share a range on Casita Road with the Columbus Police Department. But what we found there is there were so many agencies trying to use that one range that the range was falling into disrepair, and scheduling conflicts were almost a constant issue with all of the law enforcement agencies using it. So currently the range that we use is used by us, Department of Corrections, and several other agencies to make sure that all law enforcement officers have the certification and have met the standard required by the state.
The consistent underfunding of the training budget has not provided the necessary resources to conduct training as required by the Peace Officers and Standard Training Council. The current proposed budget does not even cover the ammunition that deputies need to perform yearly firearms qualifications.
Morning, Mr. Dunn. Go ahead and stand up for me, sir. Feeling all right, baby?
Yes, she's on.
Good morning, Susan.
Good morning.
Doing okay? You can stay right there. I'll walk around you.
Hey, go ahead and back up on the door for me. How you doing, sir?
Are you walking? Walking better? Walking better? You fell? When? Last night? You already saw a nurse? Did you see a nurse?
These cells house inmates that personnel believe may harm themselves or have already made an attempt to commit suicide. There are also inmates here that the clinic has not cleared to be housed with the general population, either due to health problems or the inmate must pass a mental health screening by a psychiatrist or psychologist before they can be housed with other inmates. Ideally, these inmates should be housed in the cells within the clinic. But due to an overcrowding of inmates with health problems, this just isn't possible.
These forms here, what we're doing now, these are the segregation monitoring logs. What we do is any officer that goes by in these locations, they have to check on the inmate that's in the cell. After they do that, then they have to go ahead and put the time that they were here. We have these codes down here where you could put like the person was either calm, sleeping, they were yelling, disruptive, out of their cell, talking, eating, sleeping. And so like I would always look at the time, which is like 6:26. So I've looked in here, and Mr. Ewing, he's sleeping right now. So I would just put an S, and then I put my initials there. Now the nurses also, on the other end, we have suicide cells. What they do is they have to continuously check the suicide cells at least 15 minutes apart. But now what we're doing, we're checking all cells, even if they're not on suicide. So what we're doing is the nurses will come down here as well. But normally they'll do theirs like every 30 minutes or so down here, but down there for the suicide cells, they would have to do it like every 15 minutes. So when they come down here, they're to check off on these as well. So that means everybody is responsible for checking inmates in the cells to make sure everything's okay.
Historically with our jail, that I know when we talk to folks outside of the jail and folks on council and what have you, we always express that, hey, we're overcrowded, and we are always overcrowded. And it's a chronic situation, and I guess that overutilization of this resource is what scares me and concerns me more than anything else moving forward. So our average daily population for the last 12 months is 1,149 inmates. Our rated capacity is 1,069. So on the average day, we have 80 more people in this jail than we should have. So that taxes every service that we do. It makes it more difficult to provide medical and mental health treatment. It makes it less safe for our staff. Makes it less safe for all the other inmates who are here.
There's a lot of different things that goes on each and every day here in the county jail. These guys have to actually feed these guys, clothe them, make sure that they are safe. You have to walk in and out of the cell blocks, man, and actually interact with these guys each and every day. And just to say this now, these guys, just because they are arrested in this facility, that don't mean that they have stopped doing crime. They continue to commit crimes. Yeah, they continue to have negative attitude. They continue to threaten not only each other but officers. They're very disrespectful at times, but the officers have to continue to maintain the utmost standard of professionalism. I mean, they cannot drop down to that level because they're held to that standard. They get that training each and every day. So regardless of how the inmates treat them, they have to continue to stay professional and keep focused on the job at hand. And when you say about, I guess being dangerous, these are some of, these inmates, they make makeshift weapons. I'm quite sure a lot of people have heard about makeshift weapons that inmate makes. These are an example of some of the weapons that are made in the county jail. This weapon here is actually, if you look at it, man, this is a well-made weapon, and if to use this weapon, man, it won't bend if it's made for stabbing, and it's not just only for the other inmates; they also made to hurt the officers. So that's the thing about it. They're not just here to hurt each other. If they get an opportunity, they will hurt one of the officers.
How often is there inmate on inmate and inmate on officer violence in this place?
Practically every other day on the inmate and inmate type violence. Inmates attack each other just about every day for some reason or another. You got gangs in here. You got young men that are affiliated with gangs, and it's territorial. Once you get a bunch of guys that live in a certain part of town and they're inside of a cell blocks, most of those guys group up together and they actually attack other inmates that they feel like is weaker. And if there's something that they want from that inmate, they would take it away from them. We do have commissary here, and it's done on Wednesday. Just to show you an example, once the inmates get his commissary, some of the guys, would try to take it away from him. It's almost like robbery. And it was happening so frequently that we end up charging these guys with robbery, because every store day, these guys will actually take these guys' store. They would even masked up. They would take their shirt, a piece of strip of cloth, and wrap it around their face, and they'll walk up and they will actually rob these guys of their stores, of their commissary once they get it. And it's kind of odd because these guys actually live together, so most of the guys that they're robbing, they know who they are, and they will let us know, and then we will end up coming in and charging these guys with robbery. It has slowed down a lot since we have started charging them with robbery. But inmate violence, and officers get threatened every day. An officer have to come in and do a head count, a physical head count. You got one officer walking in the dormitory with maybe 30 to 40 guys.
An officer to 30 or 40?
One guy have to walk inside that cell block. You got maybe 30 to 40 guys charged with different types of charges, have different types of attitude. And like I was telling you, you do have the gangs in there. And you have to do a head count, a visual head count, and you have to actually look at these guys to make sure that nobody's hurt. And in doing so, these inmates, they threaten him, they say negative things toward him. So it's kind of stressful, but he has to, like I say, he has to uphold that standard of professionalism, which he does, And there are times when he has to stop and deal with a situation. And in doing so, someone might be put in disciplinary.
On average, 5 officers are on workman's comp due to inmate assaults.
Days for disrespecting an officer, not doing what an officer instructed him to do. But then there are times when they set it up where they're going to attack an officer. You know, an officer has to fight. You know, and that has happened. You know, and it's lucky that no one has gotten seriously hurt. You know.
Inmates make weapons for only 2 reasons: protection from other inmates, or to assault an officer. After this interview, Captain Mitchell told us that this shank was found in the cell of an inmate who was housed alone, not allowed to be around other inmates. After an investigation, it was determined that the inmate was biding his time, waiting for an opportune moment to assault an officer and escape. Fortunately, this weapon was found before it could be used to hurt or kill an officer.
Okay, currently, we're managing and checking on approximately 533 sex offenders that currently reside and work in Muscogee County. The responsibilities of these deputies is to go out and check the residence to make sure that it complies with one of the 3 Georgia laws that we currently have that regulates sex offenders. We also go to their place of employment to ensure that they are gainfully employed and that they all the information they give us concerning their employer is correct. We also have to check and make sure these places where they work are not within certain areas that may be restricted by whatever state law they are convicted under. These sex offenders are charged with everything from statutory rape to child molestation. These deputies are responsible for noting the vehicle that the individual drives and registering it, its tag number, any cell phones that the individuals may have, and in certain circumstances, whoever lives in the house with these registered sex offenders. And with the 533, we require that these deputies check these 533 every month. It's a Herculean effort, and but I think the importance of making sure that we keep a good track and follow these individuals until we're no longer required to is extremely important to the public safety of our community, and also really important to the mission of the sheriff's office. We very short-handed in this area, so a lot of times we use investigators and other deputies who, if they find themselves in those areas, to assist us in this. But it's a tough job, but you know, we're doing the best we can.
I mean, most people, when they see a sheriff's car on the street and they see a police car on the street, they obviously think they're doing the same thing. What they don't realize is that when you see the sheriff's car on the street, it's not that they're patrolling per se, but they're out here providing another service. They're serving subpoenas, they're serving civil papers, they're serving arrest warrants, and they're serving other things. But in the process of that, you know, you got to enforce the traffic laws out here on the street, and you have to enforce the other laws. If you come across an accident, you have to work it, you know, as well. But you know, when you see a police car on the street, they're not serving civil papers. They're not serving arrest warrants for the most part. They're going to a call. So you're not duplicating anything. You're providing 2 different services. But in the process of them going to answer calls, if they go up on an accident or they come up on something else like that, then obviously they have to do the same thing we do. The people, when you have an accident or you have something come up out here on the street, these people out here on the street don't care what uniform you got on, they just want help.
So if your investigators are making their cases, doing what they have to do, you've got 3 people to keep up with over 600
right
in a month.
Correct. And when we run into a problem where we have a deputy that starts noticing, you know, certain characteristics that lead us to believe that some of the sex offenders or, you know, are not doing exactly what they're supposed to do, then we always have, I reach out to the Operations Bureau for to conduct surveillance and other things on these sex offenders to try to make sure that they are in compliance.
Last time I saw you, Miss Patrick just mentioned Miss something, right? So I'm looking at Miss Eubanks. Miss Eubanks said she'd check into it, and if she was supposed to get off and put in paperwork, she did.
Apparently so, because they informed us today that she's not on there for
But she still has probation.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
How much longer she got with that?
I'm not sure, but anyway, that was on a failure to register. They wouldn't let her register.
I don't think none of them are ever pretty, are they? Yeah, all right, dude. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one. See you, mate.
The Operations Bureau consists of 7 divisions: courts, field services, commonly known as patrol, investigations, communications, security, bailiff and reserve division, and special operations. The Special Operations Division of the Muscogee County Sheriff's Office was created under Sheriff Gene Hodge in 1995. He created it to address certain needs within the courts, high-risk situations that occur at the jail, and for the service of certain warrants and fugitive apprehensions that require a higher degree of tactical knowledge. The team was formed from full-time deputies whose SRT duties were considered part-time. That's where we're at today. We're still running a full-time officers on a part-time basis. Sheriff Darr has maintained the SRT and the mission, and has also required that those assigned to the unit, part-time unit, train and maintain an expertise at or above national standard. Due to the increase in active shooters and spree killings in the United States, Sheriff Darr added educational institutions, judicial and dignitary protection to the SRT mission. The Muscogee County Sheriff's Office also maintains formal and non-formal agreements with other sheriffs within the Chattahoochee Judicial Circuit in order to provide tactical support during a crisis, either man-made or weather-related. The SRT team has always been funded with forfeited assets obtained through those arrested for criminal activity or through grants and gifts. The team currently operates on a budget of 0 taxpayer dollars.
We have a sergeant that is over dispossessories and evictions, and he, along with help of others, because you can't do all of these things by yourself, had over 500 evictions last year and over 3,500 dispossessory notices. So again, we're pulling resources from everywhere to get the job done, and so everybody's doing more than one job.
Now, when you say a dispossessory, that's actually removing someone from property?
The eviction is moving someone from property. The dispossessory is notifying them that they're going to move. So he had over 3,500 that he notified to move, and then came and did a physical eviction of over 500 last year. And of course, he had to get some help. You don't want to send an officer out there by themselves to do an eviction, because you never know what you're going to find. We have found drugs. We have found people still in the home. We had an incident just last week where someone attacked our officers on an eviction. So you can't just do this by yourself. And I know that this is one of the areas where the sheriff had asked for more resources, is in this particular division, because like everything, more and more is being added to what we have to do, and more and more resources are needed to do it.
The Sheriff's Office is responsible for all evictions that come out of magistrate court. The vast majority of these evictions are residential and commercial. Our responsibility, and we have one deputy assigned to this, and this one deputy did over 500 evictions in 2014. And what this deputy is responsible for doing is to making sure when the order is sent down from magistrate court or whatever court that it's sent from, that this deputy goes out and makes sure that the property is vacated and that all belongings of the individual who's occupying the property are moved out. The lien holder is the one that supplies the moving crew and all of this. The deputy's out there to supervise the evacuation of the property because it's an extremely emotional time and at times a volatile situation for the individual being moved out. So the deputy has to be there. And that's another one of those situations where the deputies try to understand the circumstance. So there's many times where they'll call for backup from field services and other areas within the sheriff's office if they think it's going to be a dangerous situation, which in most cases it does get a little hairy.
Did you bring any bags or anything?
Sheriff's office. Sheriff's office. Clear the back.
Evictions like this are ones the officers prefer. That is, without incident. The day before this filming, a woman being evicted attempted to assault an officer with a brick.
The security division of the sheriff's office is made up of one lieutenant and myself. The security division is responsible for 3 checkpoints, security checkpoints, one being at the government center, what we refer to as the courthouse, the city service center, and recorder's court. Those positions are manned by reserves and bailiffs, another use out of that pool that I spoke of earlier, in order to man those positions. In the event of a shortage there, we again pull from field services or from field services patrol and cover those positions. They have to be covered under state law. I have to maintain a unified deputy sheriff at each checkpoint. I mean, we did 528,939 people through the checkpoint so far, 500,000. And we've taken 3,902 knives.
Well, the inmates coming in are, as you said, stressed with the arrest the process they have to go through. A lot of times you have inmates that are on drugs or under the influence of alcohol or have mental health problems. So coming into the jail is stressful for them, and then the officers, with the numbers of inmates that are being brought into the jail, are trying to manage those inmates. And some of those inmates that are coming in are more time consuming than others. So if, let's say we have 5 come in, one of them is mental health and is severe mental health, we're going to spend more time with that individual trying to get them, processed in and housed accordingly. So and we do have a lot of mental health inmates coming in, more so than we had in the past.
Well, unfortunately, since the state hospitals have downsized tremendously, lots of people with serious mental illness come to the jail who in the past would never have come to the jail. So we actually have a good sized population of seriously mentally ill people in the jail. So we try to identify them as early as possible. The nurses help us when they come in the door. And then we try to assess what they need in order to help them be stable or get stable and also be safe while they're in the jail.
Morning. I gotta fill out this book and see.
So I got out, I think it was 2 days.
You did 8 months up there in Atlanta,
Right here
in Columbus.
For Fair Church.
Okay.
I got out, they let me out here. I stayed in Atlanta for a week.
You do? Which one? Oh, are you sick, hurt, or injured? No, you've been tased, pepper sprayed, in a car accident today. Have you been tased or pepper sprayed or in a car accident today? No? I'm gonna go ahead and get your glasses over there. Right.
David's already out. He beats you to the floor. Oh, no, check that.
Yeah, scoot that back one. Now, lift your feet.
In 2014, 14,146 people were fingerprinted in the Muscogee County Jail. An additional 4,436 were fingerprinted on the 4th floor of the Government Center.
I need you to initial right here, that $1.76 is your currency right here. Sign right here, this is all your property, you can look over it. Initial right here, we're gonna give you a phone call.
Your birthday's 58, sir?
I looked at that today, and we had 500 and 500 and some, about 540 people who were on some type of medical, and it could be an acute thing, like I've sprained my ankle or something, or it could be a chronic thing, like I have congestive heart failure. But we also had another 300 plus that were on some type of psychoactive drug, and that spans the spectrum from anxiety and depression to a very profound schizophrenia, which we have seen a number of people here where the person is so delusional or so separated from reality that they can't function inside the jail unless they're treated. And so there's 300 people, give or take, that are on psychotropic meds. And psychotropic meds, even generic psychotropic meds, the old line, which are very effective, are still expensive. They're very expensive. And like I was saying, this is part of the requirement set forth by the 8th Amendment that you cannot take a person. It's inhumane, but beyond being inhumane, however you philosophically look at that, the law has made it very clear that it is considered cruel and unusual to take a person who is suffering from mental illness, put them in a cell, and not treat them.
Field services scheduling since 2013 has been reduced at nights and on the weekends to better support the courts. We've pulled a lot of those officers over to the day side. We run basically a skeleton operation. We have 2 deputies and a sergeant at night and on the weekends. The remainder of them are focused on day watch activities such as courts. We spend a majority of their time in the courts and serving civil process. For that reason, a lot of the statistical data from the past has been reduced in some areas and has grown in others. Some of the reductions that we're seeing are traffic citations and DUIs, And the increase that we are seeing is in the service of civil process and in the service of warrants and in court hours spent in the courtroom supporting the court detail. The evening watch officers, their responsibility are warrants, mostly transporting from the hospitals, also meeting with Columbus Police Department and transporting on warrants to our county jail on warrants that we hold, meeting with other agencies for warrant service. Mobile command within special operations is a command trailer, and its equipment was purchased from monies that was seized from criminals. We're able to provide radio support as well as mobile dispatch and provide satellite communications during a disaster or any crisis. Our mobile command is listed with GEMA and FEMA as assets to the state of Georgia if there is a disaster. We also do statewide exercises yearly with GEMA and other mobile command units across the state to continue our interoperability with other agencies. We participate in many operations such as S&S, which is the Strategic National Stockpile, and other exercises throughout the year locally. This platform is also critical in the event we have an emergency at our jail or any courthouse within this judicial circuit. It is the platform that we would operate from.
In 2011, a tornado cut through Harris County, destroying the Harris County Sheriff's Office's 911 center. The mobile command unit was deployed to Harris County to act as their 911 center for 2 months.
So when I said our average daily population is 1149, and you think, wow, well, that's 80 over. Maybe it doesn't sound that horrible, but really the way that budgeting and works with confinement facilities is about what you call bed days. That's how many days somebody is in a bed, and a bed is occupied. So if you express that average daily population in bed days, then you're over our budgeted and rated capacity by 29,200 bed days every year. Now that's a lot of money if you break down the amount of money that it takes to house a person for a day. So it has a tremendous impact, negative impact on the budget and safety and all kinds of other things. So
a single meal for an inmate cost the jail 88 cents. That doesn't sound like much, but with each inmate being given 3 meals a day and an inmate population of over 1,100, the jail must spend approximately $3,000 a day just to feed everyone.
I think they do a great job in coming here because these young men and women also have families that they want to go back home to, and nobody actually sees what goes on inside the jail. You see law enforcement every day riding around the vehicles, but inside this here, you don't see what these young men and women do. Nobody sees that, that the stress level. They don't know the stress level that they face each and every day. And believe me, it's a high level of stress, just dealing with inmates each and every day that ultimately, they don't want to do right. They just continue to challenge, to disrespect anything that they can actually do to cause problems with officers.
All members of the investigative unit are also part of the special response team. The unit works closely with the U.S. Marshals Service in the execution of federal arrest warrants, as well as warrants from other counties. The investigative unit is responsible for investigating problems that arise in the Muscogee County Jail. Inmate-on-inmate violence, inmate-on-officer violence, sexual assaults, suicide and suicide attempts, inmate deaths, and escapes are just a few of the type of investigations that they oversee. The unit investigates threats made to departments within the city government and the courts. Trained in building evacuation and bomb search techniques for threats aimed at the Muscogee County Jail and any building ran or operated by the Columbus Consolidated Government. They provide dignitary protection for mayors, other elected officials, past presidents and vice presidents of the United States, Georgia's Supreme Court justices, U.S. senators, U.S. congressmen, and judges in the State and Superior Court of the Chattahoochee Judicial Circuit, which includes 24-hour protection when needed and provides courtroom security during high-profile trials and council meetings. They work joint investigations with law enforcement agencies at the federal, state, and local levels, also working with the Columbus Police Department and Metro Narcotics Task Force when any department needs assistance, which includes the use of the canine and handler in and around the Chattahoochee Judicial Circuit. They are the primary investigating agency on crimes occurring in state facilities in Columbus when the GBI is unavailable or it is a rapid response situation. Facilities such as Jack T. Rutledge Prison, Muscogee County Prison, the Regional Youth Detention Center and Youth Detention Center, and West Central Georgia Regional Hospital, just to name a few.
The cuts that have been proposed by the mayor all involve cuts within the Operations Bureau. 8 officers out of the investigative division. Those 8 officers are critical to the day-to-day operations of this office. On a daily basis, we could get threats from the courts, where I would need officers undercover within the courtrooms, same way at the council meetings. And then any type of investigation could come in. We could have issues at the jail that require 2 or 3 investigators to handle that. I think at this time that the 8 investigators that I have to utilize for any investigations that come up and the expertise that's required and the money that we have already spent on this expertise, these 8 investigators need to stay where they are.
As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all men to liberty, equality, and justice. Keep my private life unsullied as an example to all. Maintain courageous calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule. Develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others. Honest in thought and deed in both my personal and official life. I will be exemplary in obeying the laws of the land and the regulations of my department. Whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature, or that is confided to me in my official capacity, will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duty. Never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions. With no compromise for crime and with relentless prosecution of criminals, I will enforce the laws courteously and appropriately without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence, and never accepting gratuities. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held so long as I am true to the ethics of the police service. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen profession. Law enforcement.